One of these days, we'll get the audio and video right all at the same time. Hey guys, welcome back. If you guys are new here, I'm Mark. I'm a certified health coach. And this is Teresa. She's a board certified family nurse practitioner. We're with Total Health and Wellness, and we like to talk about hormones, metabolic health, and everything in between. For those of you guys who aren't aware of it, also, we're on more than just one social media platform. We're actually on YouTube, Facebook, and on Instagram. So links to all those social media platforms, and then also our website and much, much more are in the descriptions and or comment section. So check those out. Yep. First, I want to show you guys, tonight we're going to talk about fat adaptation versus ketosis, nutritional ketosis. So I want to talk about the difference between them. When I first started on my keto journey, I didn't know there was a difference between the two. I'd never even heard of fat adaptation before. Yeah. I just thought it was nutritional ketosis, but there is a difference between the two. So we're going to talk about those a little bit tonight. But first, I want to show you guys what we're having for dinner. So Teresa was busy yesterday, so there's a couple of new things on the plate here, guys. The first one here is going to be a burger. So we have a 70-30 on the meat, so 70% fat, 30% protein. And then I've got on that burger some bacon, some onions, some tomato, and some fresh guacamole on there as well. And then you'll notice there's actually a bun on this burger. There's a top and a bottom. So Teresa, do you want to talk about the cheesy bread you made?
Yeah, I don't have the recipe memorized, but I used to make it a long time ago. It's almond flour, baking soda, cream cheese, cheddar cheese, garlic, and Italian seasoning.
It's going to be really good.
Yeah.
And we've got scrambled eggs with some extra cheese on there. And then we've also got, Teresa made a cheesy broccoli yesterday. So that's something new. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I haven't made that in years. One of the kids cheered when I brought it to the table, but I just put broccoli florets in a baking pan. And then I put it like pretty high, like 400 to even broil for about 15, 20 minutes until it starts getting crispy. And then I put melted butter and garlic over it. And then I sprinkle some cheese on top, and then I bake it or broil it a little bit longer.
Yep, right on.
Yep.
All right, and I threw a brat in there as well. So there's one brat in there, and then the other thing we did was that you did like a baked cheese. So
yep.
I don't know if you wanted to.
Which we did that last week. I just again
right
put it in a broil, and I put shredded cheese in there first and let it broil with Italian seasoning, garlic, and Jane's Crazy until the brown that you want it, and then I pull it out.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
Yesterday went over really well.
All the kids loved it.
Yeah, we sure did. So, all right, guys. Well, let's talk a little bit first before we get to the topic of tonight. I also wanted to cover a question we had. So, what I'd like to start doing is offering up a featured question, kind of every time we do one of these videos, because so many people have so many great questions. And then what I'll do is we'll give a shout out to whoever it is who asked that question. We won't get to them all or be able to do a whole video on all of them, but you know, if you guys those questions actually help us. They give us ideas. They get the creative juices flowing, and it gives us content. So it's very helpful, and we appreciate you guys tremendously for doing that. So if you guys have stuff you'd like us to talk about, make sure you drop those in the comment section for us, and it'll give us some fuel for the fire.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
And sometimes I'm just thinking about this because this annoyed me when you just said it, but you're like, oh, I annoy you?
I didn't know. I didn't know we had something going on tonight. What's going on?
Well, I just ruminating in my head. So sometimes we know what we know, and we know what we're going to talk about. But sometimes you'll go and look up what is the internet saying about it. So if you pull up what we're going to talk about tonight, it says absolutely don't eat carnivore for this situation. Eat plant-based. And it's just frustrating because there's no studies on plant-based that show anything good. And then it reminds me of somebody that we are very close to just had cardiac surgery, so open heart surgery. He's in his 70s, and the cardiosurgeon PA told him to go plant-based. And I'm just like, on what? Like, what studies? There's no studies. There's good studies on keto.
Yeah, and so what Teresa's referring to with regards to the information that was out there, speaking of that, we're going to be doing a misinformation video shortly because somebody asked for that, and we've been wanting to do one on it. But when I went and I started doing research for today's video, I found one of the first couple of websites that I went to, I started reading through, and I can't remember which one it was, but it was saying specifically, so the question tonight that the patient the follower had on YouTube was she has an 80-year-old husband, and she wants to know if the carnivore diet can help him with his erectile dysfunction. So when I was doing the research on that to put together some things today, I found that the first couple of websites that I looked at said that under no circumstances should the meat-based diet be used for erectile dysfunction. Number one, because it causes cancer, misinformation. And number two, because plant-based is far better. And again, they didn't have any studies to back that up, but in any case, that's what Teresa's referencing
Yeah.
when she's talking about that
But
frustration.
it's confusing, which if you don't really have a strong opinion one way or the other, you're like, so many people on social media are swayed, like, well, so-and-so said this and so-and-so said this. Just know
Yeah.
you have to do whatever works for you, your family, your situation, your season. This is what we have found that works great for us. And we are thriving better in our now 50s, 40s and 50s than we ever were in our 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
And we've been together since we were in our 20s.
Yeah.
We'll be celebrating 30 years this year.
Yeah. Well, and so when I'm doing the research for this, if there's no studies that will back up the research that we're on the topics we're talking about, I won't talk about that particular article or research or anything. Article. I won't even touch it. So unless there's something to back it up. So I was looking through, and at the same time, when there's these articles out that have this misinformation, I want to know what people are saying about carnivore for certain things. I want to know what they're saying about keto. I want to know what they're saying about low carb, because I want to know what the misinformation is, and I want to be able to study it. And I want to be able to counter it with research and with facts.
Yeah.
So it's important to know, the good and the bad,
yeah,
with regards to things. All right. So specifically, let me repeat that question. It's going to be a follower wanted to know, will a carnivore diet help her 80-year-old husband with erectile dysfunction? And the short answer is yes. So first of all, meat is high in amino acids. Okay. So specifically the amino acids L-arginine and L-carnitine are very good at increasing blood circulation. Well, what is erectile dysfunction? It's an actual difficulty with blood circulation to the penis.
Yep.
So that side of the meat part of it is actually really good. And then also carnivore diets tend to be high in zinc, and zinc is known to be helpful in the production of testosterone.
Yes.
Testosterone obviously is great for libido in men. So yeah, and it also increases zinc will also increase blood flow.
Yeah.
So, and I know Teresa wants to throw in some stuff here, but that's what I found from some of the studies.
Yeah.
I
think testosterone is great. But I think a couple big things for ED. One is sugar. So if you're a diabetic, you can reverse all diabetic consequences, but it takes, Dr. Richard Bernstein has said before, he's the type 1 guy, that it takes about 1.5 years of having normal blood sugars. So it can be done, but you can eventually get all of that plaque out of all the small blood vessels and reverse things. And then the other thing is medications. So I'm sure there's a lot, but the ones I always think about are statins, blood pressure pills, and antidepressants. Those things can cause libido, orgasm issues, and erectile dysfunction. But if men got informed consent before they got put on a blood pressure pill, and if they said this is probably going to cause ED, men would say no, thank you. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Right on. All right, let's go right into our topic for tonight. So again, the difference between ketosis and fat adaptation. So let's talk a little bit about ketosis first. So ketosis is simply a state that your body gets into when carbohydrates are not introduced, when you're not consuming carbohydrates. So when you're not consuming carbohydrates, your body begins to use fat for fuel, and a byproduct of that is ketones. And that's why you can measure the ketones in your blood and whatnot. And then those ketones that are floating around in circulation have various effects on the body. And we talked about it just the other day, how they're neuroprotective. They could be used for fuel. They've got all kinds of uses, and they're fantastic. So,
yeah.
But that's essentially what it is. And you get that way by not eating carbohydrates. So you bring about a dietary change. The ketogenic diet does that. Obviously, it's very high fat, it's moderate protein, and it's very low carbohydrate. So obviously the ketogenic diet was built specifically for that. A side effect of ketosis is, I always mention a side effect, is fat loss or weight loss, okay? Because that's not what it was designed for. What it really was designed for was epilepsy in children, to treat that, but it does a lot of other things too. So if you think about all the metabolic diseases it treats, Teresa, do you want to talk about a few of those really quick? Because there's a whole bunch. We start off with cancer,
fatty liver, diabetes, mental health, arthritis increases, can perpetuate or aggravate IBS, ulcerative colitis, PCOS, infertility,
cardiovascular disease,
strokes.
Yeah, I mean, the list goes on.
It's
and
everything.
On. So, and that was just to touch on it. There's more than that, obviously, but I wanted just to kind of set the foundation for what ketosis is. Now, fat adaptation, on the other side of it, is really a result of being in ketosis for an extended period of time. And so we've seen some people, depending upon how metabolically healthy they are, can get into full fat adaptation in, what do you want to say, like a month, a couple months?
I would say 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's
so
the shortest.
But some people can take months. Mm-hmm. It just depends on you, and it depends on your level of metabolic health and whatnot. Yeah. So all that is that your body has learned to to very efficiently burn fat for fuel. It's just doing it because that's all you've been giving it is fat. And so it gets used to doing that. So again, that's from long-term ketosis. So the benefits for fat adaptation are the exact same as they are for the ketogenic diet or ketosis, being in ketosis. But what's interesting about it is that after you've been fat adapted for a period of time, you may not be in ketosis. So it's kind of crazy. Yeah. You may be, you may not be. But what we've tested before is the fact that when you're in a fat burning state or you're fat adapted, you can, I'm not telling you guys to do this, but you can fall off the wagon every now and then. You can have an indulgent meal or something, and your body is not going to get knocked out of its fat adapted state.
Right.
It's kind of cool that you can do that. I was doing it. I was at a point in my life where I was fat adapted. I ate one meal a day for almost a year. And then I was also doing high intensity exercise about 4 days a week. And I was in tremendously good shape, did just fine on that. And the only thing as I could say is that because I was only doing one meal a day, that fasting that I was doing, my body started pushing back. I just wasn't getting enough protein after about almost a year. And so I noticed that my lean muscle started to decrease and my body fat started to increase. So I had to back off and I had to actually go to a couple meals a day. But that's kind of it as far as the difference between the two in a nutshell. What else did you want to offer?
Yeah, today I spoke with a patient that's been my patient a long time. She called because she was having increased headaches, and she had headaches her whole life, but they went away for like the last 2 years and now they're back. So the first thing I suggested before she has to go back to her neurologist is take electrolytes. She said, I am. I said, take more than you think you need. And then the other thing is drinking exogenous ketones. So I would, we would prefer you to get into a lifestyle and a diet that produces ketones on your own. But exogenous ketones, if you take the powder, we like audacious ketones. You feed your brain ketones, and headaches a lot of times can go away. And I only know that because I had a patient that did it. She used exogenous ketones for migraines.
Yeah, and a lot of people too, early on in their journey, with their first going into a ketogenic diet, they can take the ketone supplement or take beta hydroxybutyrate or whatever it is to increase their ketone levels and help them out a little bit early on with the brain fog and the lethargy, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So something I wanted to touch on too really quick was I don't remember the specific study, but I wanted to talk about fat adapted athletes. So this kind of goes back also to a little bit of the misinformation. So I think it was the FAST study, but I can't remember specifically. I'm not a big study guy as far as memorizing them goes. But what they did is they took these athletes and they compared athletes who were normal endurance athletes who were doing the GU and all the high carbohydrate Gatorade. I don't know what kind of drinks they do, but all the really high carb sugary drinks for the long distance like marathon running kind of stuff, because that's what we've always done. And they took a handful of athletes and they said that they were going to put them in ketosis and they were going to have them compete against the athletes who were not, who were using the normal food and drink and whatnot during the event. Well, it turned out that the guys and ladies that did the ketosis side of things, who they called fat adapted, they didn't fare quite as well. They didn't do bad, but they didn't fare quite as well as the people who were doing the regular carbs, that were taking the carbs. But what we found out later was those individuals who were fat adapted had only been on a low carb way of eating or a ketogenic way of eating for 1 week.
Right.
1 week before they actually had the event. I would say not only were they not fat adapted, they probably felt like crap for that first week, because sometimes you don't feel that good. And I don't know in the study, whether they were giving them exogenous ketones and helping them out in any way, but that's not a fair comparison at all, is my point.
Right. But see, when you read the headlines and you read that study, if you don't look into specifically that they were only doing it for 7 days or a week, you're going to be like, crap, I can't do my athleticism and do that kind of eating. So you just throw it out the wayside, and it's just misinformation.
Yeah, totally. Well, did you have anything else?
No.
All right. Well, that's all I got too, ladies and gentlemen. So again, if you guys want to, please send some ideas our way with questions, and we'll feature them and we'll give you a shout out when we do that. And otherwise, as always, guys, we love you
so much.
God bless you, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Food matters. Bye, guys.